Call of Duty, save all of it to our
Things
beauty.
that I want to things that I want to sex, I don't make her upset. Baby, you have to bring your friends, cause they all have to meet my friends. And we have it so back then, so we have to live by then. Who have me there no gang, yeah, cause I'm there to show myself. Now I just want to marry ya, oh my designer. Take your real body, it's the life for this life. I don't pay my family now, to show you my family now. You know, say me a family. My song gets it like Rabina. Mommy and daddy so, boys and girls so. Come on, take it like that. Olórí tó lọ sàkínà. Anywhere me has to be so man. Say they love me so man. They don't get to man. Baby, say we get to man. Baby, so man. Baby, so man. Baby, so man. Baby, so man.
DJ plenty songs.
Baby, so man. Baby, so man. Baby, so man. Baby, so man. Baby, so man.
Man, I come from my place way back. Pray to Jah that we never lie. And you know, man, I'm born winner. Highly celestial. Oh, Jah, oh, yeah. Yeah. Toto shala waisha. Carry on and no get stamina. Yo, my bed, yo, pamina. Toto shala waisha. Carry on and no get stamina. Yo, my bed, yo, pamina.
DJ Fizzy.
Okay. I'm a logo. I'm a logo. Mr. General, she jeje. Any to lowo lowo. If you no get, you go see Pepe. Me a dey low key, cause I get OT. Koluwa jo fere sọ̀rọ̀ mi, I go get money to show for me. Koluwa jo fere sọ̀rọ̀ mi. Toto shala waisha. Carry your own and no get stamina. Yo, my bed, yo, pamina. Toto shala waisha. Carry your own and no get stamina. Yo, my bed, yo, pamina.
What? This hour?
Yeah, me a shocking one back on beat the bad boy thing. Say what you go be. Them no view with me on G. One lele. From Ujuele to Ikateo. I show them Pepe into Sanleo. Because I know my dream, me ukireo. Jazz on jazz, but their jazz don't cast. Only strong feet to be so bad. Stand for my dream as I wear my crown. Get down on my knees and I pray to Jah. Person where you walk, tell me how you want chop, man, I don't know. Heavily sound from the street, that's how we roll. Yeah, give me your kitty, so for my hope, any coco. Give me your kitty, so for my hope, any coco.
DJ Fizzy.
So many kilo coming, how many me I want up? So many friends they envy. But me, I know they see that. I said the guy that they look at it now. Anybody want move my phone? Emi love my tongue cool bag on. Now I they do big thing, I be lying. My head strong past coconut. Them try, them no reach me, oh God. Anything where you wish me, I wish you back. I'ma make a fuss on my grind, though. Person where no walk, tell me how you want job, and I don't know. Every sound from the street, that's how we roll. Yeah, if you get it, you get it, so my world. Baby, why you dey fear? Mr. Money just one day with you said. I came here to turn up, oh shaman. Never knew I would fall in love on the dance floor. Oh shit, senorita, mamacita, my bonita. Make I fly you to Ibiza. You my nigga, you my jigga. Make I give her to Caesar with the Caesars. Sadi Satani in my shingo. I'ma no test me, I be King Kong. Timothy Mauka Meji, Ataleko, Bambila, Adevila, my vanilla, my sexualila, be Ayakila, who's your killer? Oh, Shatel, or Oyas Rumorina. Show my channel. Give me all I Mr. Money, and I'ma give you bang, better than from the saddle. Bad man, they are so. I don't get anybody, bad man, they are good. And I go take care of you, baby, make me good. And I want to make one low, I'ma show for, yeah, no. I'ma to show my body. Your body tagging on. I'ma to show my body. My money, know I got you. Body of a goddess who design you. As I hustle, I find you. Shine up, money shampoo. Baby, keep on fire. Baby, I know shine on you got to. As I hustle, I find you. Shine up, money shampoo. I'm a killer fan of. Timba friend, show my channel. Give me all I Mr. Money, and I'ma give you bang, better than from the saddle. Bad man, they are so. I don't get anybody, bad man, they are good. And I go take care of you, baby, make me good. And I want to make one low, I'ma show for. For where I did me, I did hallelujah. Them say I look up. La vida loca. Sare for me ni kuda. My face they show, my shoe they shine. I'm a great caraco. My face they show, my shoe they shine. I'm a great caraco. Bimoshe la bimoshe bo. Ualo baba go. Ualo baba go. Ualo baba go. My face they show, my shoe they shine. I'm a great caraco. My face they show, my shoe they shine. I'm a caraco. Bimoshe la bimoshe bo. Ualo baba go. Ualo baba go. Ualo baba go. Feeling for my head. 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 Kiku makwa boda mi o. Kiku makwa ramba mi o. Na money dey boda mi o. Money la ti da from my bed, I know they think about anything in my house, in my head. As I do walk, I do pray, I believe in Jehovah. Everything I do, they go well. It'll be everything when you see, you go talk. I don't mind anybody with the talk all on my door. If I no come, make you do. If you no do, make I buy for the TT. If I ever. So go to love. I Malo ba on fogo la la po. Eri ku polopo. Ọmọ logo bá mi sọ̀rọ̀ kí ló sọ. Ela o ti mi dá mi mọ̀. Mi ò kára mo para mo jáde tán. Eri ku polopo. Ọmọ logo bá mi sọ̀rọ̀ kí ló sọ.
Yeah, my timing was off and my knees on alignment was off, but my mind wasn't off. I was on my shit, dog. Trick is to think like you're rich already. Did a lot of shows with no shoulder. Dropped a lot of songs that didn't blow up, but I never lost faith in this. Knew they wouldn't give it to me, had to take this shit, yeah. All this time invested, knew that I was gonna get my blessing. Knew that it was just gonna take some time, but one day I'm gonna shine. Imagine if I would've stopped, my family would've never got a life, bro. Now I ain't going back to that life, so making life changing money, everything on that. So if I lose it all tonight, I'll be alright, though.
More music on trendybeats.com.
Now my guys, them know me. Okay. I've been writing this story. I know be yours.
DJ Feezy.
If you ask them know me. I know they blow trees, only lonely me lonely. Music chose me, just know this and know peace. I get low-key, but I'm never lonely. Sexy ladies, come wine for me slowly.
Kasungala no they waste time, oh nah. Me I want fire bazooka, oh nah. Mr. Money no they waste time, Mr. Money want to ease your mind. Say baby don't find no they too shine, unaka. Show why me, Mr. Money no they waste time, Mr. Money want to ease your mind. Hello, you carry back a lot of filo. I'ma check a phone no go they ghost. Let it go then kilo. Kumatingaza. She nasa in your palapa. Agata from Osapa from Nibulala. Nishi lo japa, nishi lo japa. Omo aje bota le be me gapa. I don't like the nonsense, we ya go bota. I don't like the nonsense, we ya go bota. Nishi lo japa. Omo aje bota le be me gapa. I don't like the nonsense, we ya go bota. I don't like the nonsense, we ya go bota. Sunga, sunga la ja 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 sunga, sunga sunga sunga, sunga la ja 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 sunga, olo sunga ja sunga, sunga sunga sunga, sunga la ja 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 sunga, sunga sunga sunga.
DJ Fizzy.
Mr. Money with the vibe right now. Mr. Money with the vibe right now. Mr. Money with the vibe right now.
I know they sleep at all. I'm a come out cause I'm ready to spend. If I can't come out, make we my united. This your skin just a glow, baby, make we chillo. Hello, you carry back a lot of filo. I'm a jack of phone, no good, they go slow. I just don't know what I'm feeling. Kumatingas, she nasa in your palapa. Agata from Osapa, Ulala, Nishelo Japan, Nishelo Japan.
What? This hour?
Kalakuta no be place for school boy. I get niggas we don't go there before. Baba wa want my jump back up. I'm a lock no the phone bossy. You be boss, I be boss who go come be condo. Once I go on the mulako, she don't bow. Say I know they like to they talk. Wise men know they like to they talk. Showbow. Secure. I did ready to bow. Bend down, go low, bend down. I bend now you don't cause it trouble. Secure. I look to see I forgot. I'm a wet time hotel. I look to see I forgot. Baby, Zumami, yeah. Baby, Zumami, that way Zumami, baby, Zumami, yeah.
Is on fire.
Baby, Zumami, that way Zumami, baby, Zumami, yeah. Baby, Zumami, that way Zumami, baby, Zumami, yeah.
More music on trendybeats.com.
DJ Fizzy.
It is
What? This hour?
Superstar DJ. Excuse it.
You walk on you get it. Oh, bad it. Yeah, oh, bad it. Oh, get it. You walk on you get it. Oh, bad it. Yeah, oh, bad it.
Get. Oh, bad it. Get.
thing. And every night I did miss my mommy. I like woman, I know like Batman. Oh yeah. Tiggy, I'm a dancer. 10 girls per hour, so me so. Thank God for my life, oh I for don't panic. Cause I know this is so dancer. Get. Oh my God. Get. Turn up.
Ololade Miyashake.
Pàdé mi ọ̀sùn lọ, lójú ìgbà tí bá ní kò bọ́ọ̀kù lọ. Àlàyé mi sáré tẹ bọ́tì lọ, gbogbo nǹkan kọ́ ló máa fi ń jọ̀gọ̀jọ̀. Ká lọ ṣe shopping jọ, I know they send that they chop my life. 100% we dey gbádùn lọ, àwọn tí o fẹ́ wa kọ́ máa struggle lọ. The money long cause I don't buy shit. Now everybody want to tell my shit. I just blow but I know myself. Before them use me, I go use my sense. I'm about to buy shit. Anita, go down set. I'm a do, I'm a pupa, me love my fat. Ain't you got me G, you love my jet. Assalam, alaikum. I get too many disciples. Mutaka, Ushida. Shower me your blessings, thank you. In every situation, make I know you. In me shako, alone. Take out body, me back inside you. In me I don't know good, you want the corner, put that motor, cause you the para, pass your mother. Para, seller.
DJ Feezy.
The money long cause I don't buy shit. Now everybody want to tell my shit. I just do but I know myself. Before them use me, I go use my sense. I'm about to buy shit. Anita.
What? This hour?
I'm a logo, kò ní sófò. Gbogbo ìṣòro rẹ̀ ọ̀tá ní òkò. Ẹnu ẹ ò ní gbẹ ò ní mọ́fò. Ọmọ yìí kò ọpọlọ lọ fi ń gbé kò. Say you no like designer, àbí you no like to gbapá. Ibigi lagati gaga, you got to shop at it. Here we go.
trendybeats.com.
DJ Spinall. Top boy.
Ololade Miyashake.
I'm a logo, kò ní sófò. Gbogbo ìṣòro rẹ̀ ọ̀tá ní òkò. Ẹnu ẹ ò ní gbẹ ò ní mọ́fò. Ọmọ yìí kò ọpọlọ lọ fi ń gbé kò. Say you no like designer, àbí you no like to gbapá. Ibigi lagati gaga, you got to shop at it. Here we go. Palazzo, Jiggy, gbọ́jà kò lè reason. No sleeping, ọmọ no darling. Calculating, kíákíá for yàrá. My G, o ṣàmọ̀ yàrá. Òjijì bàtà wọ̀ tààrí. Ẹ̀bà mi ṣáàrí. Ọmọ lọ́mọ láàrin ọ̀tá.
1, 2, 3, come on.
I know the life, I'm not my type. If no be God, oh don't die. Who don't like, I get my phone like, I get butter. She's like it, boomba. She's like the one we don't got no border. 2 girls on me too. Each one I do love. Bad boy, I'm single. 20 girls I do love. Big waist, girl, massive party, then it starts, yeah, we got it, done the dance. Big waist, girl, massive party, done it starts, yeah, we got it, done the dance. Get the money, it's my hobby. I do popping, I do para, really love it. As you can see, for overseas, and the fam, Mr. Money, all over, be the money's going. Cause she, you love me, but what Gucci, Versace. You say, about that group, but you say, come my dog, couldn't you be? Here we go. Palazzo, Jiggy, Boja, put it easy. I'm sleeping, no one, no darling. I'm getting back out for Yami. My G, Shamo, Yami.
When the building.
Shami.
1, 2, 3, come on. Tune into the King of Sound. This DJ is on fire.
I can shout, you dele pariwo, mo ti logo. When I show, go for your party,
DJ Fizzy.
Elle peut descer, no de buga, set, no de buga. Elle peut descer, no de buga, set, no de buga, set. What's up, taking my lesson? We taking what I wrote. When you like it, shadow. Me, I'm not bell. What's out of me, shine? Come on, no follow. I love it, never, darling, never, ballin', forever, good gig like a coacher, baby, enter, get money, good go paper, you want you a big but you want a bamba, oh shag bag, oh shitty bamba, oh yeah, order, aquaba, you keep it gas, you could be Tomagana, oh yeah, sicky, never, I bad the loud politics to bash us sefa, oh yeah, give me pim, pop, okay, kiki, oh pop, oh yeah, second money go sucker, back booty up for me, yellow pop.
Hello everyone. We should start coming back to the hall. Check your agenda right now. We are after the lunch. We are having in this class right now. We are having Beyond Cutting Edge Analytics by Olamide Jola Osho in this hall. So please check your agenda right now to check which class you are going for. And that starts in the next 5 minutes. Every class starts in the next 5 minutes. Every class starts in the next 5 minutes. Now, everybody go to your classes. So if you are meant for this class, that is fine. But everybody go to your classes. We have the Harnessing the Power of Data in Africa. We have How Data Literate is Your Organization. And we have Finance to Tech, a transition pathway for non-tech. And we also have experimentation, recipes for improving commercial data products. Please, let's start going for all classes. We are starting the next class in the next 3 minutes right now. Thank you very much.
is difficult for you, it's also difficult for somebody. No, they lose emotion, better face your grind and make money. But let me do better, do better. I let me tell them do better.
More music on trendybeats.com.
Okay, please let's start coming in for our sessions. Go for your sessions. Check the agenda. Go for your session. It's starting now. Go for your sessions, please. Please go for your sessions. Huh? Check your agenda. Your agenda right now should start with.
Hi everyone. Good evening. Good afternoon. So if you want to check the agenda, so you have to go to datafestafrica.sessionize.com. Do you hear me? Yeah. Do you have the link to the agenda? Do you have the link to the agenda, please? And the thing is, we are actually behind schedule, so we are not really following the time that you see here because we started quite late. So right now we are supposed to start the talk. So we are assuming that lunch break is over, everyone has eaten. So now we want to start the third. Okay, so I will just give it to yeah.
So if you see the session that we're going to take now, the session that is supposed to be after lunch, which is the talk session. The first one here is Nairobi Hall. It's Beyond Cutting Edge Analytics, Changing the Culture of Data-Driven Decision Making. That's happening here, Cairo Hall. Sorry, Nairobi Hall. At Cairo Hall, we're having Harnessing the Power of Data in Africa with Modernized Data Systems and Architectures. And in Abidjan Hall is, I think here, the gallery to my left. Abidjan Hall, we have How Data Literate is Your Organization. On Windhoek Hall, we have Finance to Tech, a transition pathway for non-STEMs. And at Luanda Hall, which is at Julius Berger, we have experimentation, recipes for improving commercial data products. Please, let's all go to all of those halls now so that we can start those sessions. So this is a talk session, it's not a workshop, so it's not going to be as serious as the ones that we had before lunch. It's going to be more relaxed. I know that you're feeling like your brain is jam-packed. So please, let's just go to all of those halls. If you're going to Julius Berger, as usual, go to the car park so that the bus will take you there. So we'll come back from that session at 3:15. Yeah, after the session, we have another talk. So you just go to the halls according to what's on the... It's not 3:15. So where is So where is Olamide? Making Olamide Jola show. To set up, okay. Also, quick announcement, please. You cannot bring food, water, or drink into the hall. You're supposed to eat outside at the foyer, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. How was lunch? How was lunch? My name is It's interesting that makes decisions based off data. Okay, we'll talk about that just sounds good. Practically on how to start your career in data analytics. Okay. I love good food. I'm so glad that if I eat bad food, I would like we know it is fake. So, what matters more than teenage analytics? Okay. Just a little bit of background. When I started my career, that were in use that affected the performance of the organizations. But then at the end of the day, there are some things that matter because in reality, guys, no one cares. No one cares how much you do. No one cares that you can script from now to tomorrow, even though we know GitHub and Google and YouTube. Power BI, or how your lesson you want to get on a scale of 9 in SQL. What exactly do you think would be important to me and see? Sorry? Problem solving more. Okay. Decision making. What else? Money. Who said money? Money. Business that you have, meaning that if I work for an organization, that organization must be able to make money to continue to pay me, right? Okay, even the guys that are earning dollars, let's be real. I'm not even was it which company later? Is it Netflix? So no matter like even from the keynote speaker and even from David Brown when he spoke, there's a balance to it. Even me, I'm picking up, taking away that pop beat because you need to be technical in the business. Okay, so no one cares. What then do we care about? So first, let me introduce you to the best analytics solution that was ever made. I'm not going to tell you true life experience. Sinking to a warehouse and all of that. It was nice. I mean, everything was supposed to do. Guess what? People can get out without getting. I know. I didn't use it. Poorly used. Never really liked programming because I'm looking for one line of basic it's beyond. Okay, so it's all about making an impact. It's all about making an impact. And one of my former colleagues, I remember when I was having like all these the salary was getting. Those applications are being used. Am I correct? So for him, he knew that if I build something, let it make sense. Okay? Even for me personally, or a senior colleague, years ago, taking ownership. Forget the it's pretty simple. If you have look for use the example I was familiar with. Let's say what's a project for you guys in customer service. Someone said earlier, it's all about solving problems. So it's easier. It's not my project, it's now our project. Even though you guys will probably do. That's one way to win in organization. Because again, it's all about making impact. So look at that subject. What are the stakeholders doing? What matters to them? What matters to them? Because what matters to you doesn't matter to them. How do you want me to be invested in what you want to do? So it has to matter. It has to matter to them. So one good way to do that is to get them involved. Let them functional. Okay? If you are going to I think it was not that spoke about domain experience. It is so domain experience is very, very important. If you're going to do a project in customer service, who knows about customer service? I remember there was something we were trying to do in a current organization around loan prediction. And before we even started out, we cannot start any conversation. Let us go and get somebody in the credit to discuss. Because at the end of the day, we need something used. So another thing is you need to focus on more organizational metrics. Even if you are visiting the hospital, you want customers, right? If you sign up for an HMO, you want what? You want customers. So customer acquisition is important. Okay? Not to pull anything down. I saw someone tweeted recently about a very, very fantastic it was a computer vision project that he did around stock, around inventory and all of that. Okay? So, but then, no, it's beyond the sophistication. It has to matter to those organizations. So revenue generation, I don't think I need to stress that. And then cost reduction. These are just a few. All right. But then if you focus on what matters to your organization, then you might be able to make an impact. Okay. And then whatever you do, you must tie it to impact. It must be specific. It must be measurable. It must be very specific. Okay. I think it was the Dr. Okuchime that said in the first instance when she talked about fashion, about AI in fashion. I remember a book I read, and it was about, I think the company was in America, not in UK now. It was about fashion. So what they did at the outset of the company, they instituted data science in the company. And this was what they did. So that if you want to style me, for example, now, they were able to get, they had something that allowed them to collect customers' data. And so their model would recommend the outfit that would suit you based on your preferences. And they now went a step further to probably add stylists, physical human beings, so that if the model says that, okay, for Olami, they give him these glasses, this top, this and that, that's the recommendation. A human being will take that recommendation, look at it and like check some other things, and more like helps balance out with what the model was doing. And at the end of the day, they were making a killing. Fashion, selling clothes, data science, okay? And they could tie it to specific measurable impact. So for that particular data science team, do you think they would need to speak any grammar when they are doing a project? They don't, because their model was recommending and they were selling. But what the key thing that such organizations have is that they had data science already within the fabric of what they are doing. Some of you are students here. Some of you will probably still create your own startups. And it's not far-fetched. One of my colleagues once told me that the guys that started PiggyVest were his classmates in school, Covenant University. It was even like, if I had known, maybe I would have probably just linked up with those guys some more and everything. They were his classmates in Covenant University. Real life. So I'm not talking you happy when I say that some of you will probably create startups right from here. Because I like that we have a good student population here. All right? But then at the end of the day, if you end up doing that and you are going to inculcate data analytics into what you do, just note that you have to start tying it to specific measurable impact. If we build this model, if we create this BI solution, what will it do for us so that somebody can care? All right? Okay? So, another way you can change the culture of data decision making is how you set up your data team. Okay? I know that David Brown spoke about the makeup of a data team. All right, but the only thing I would just like to emphasize here is that you need a good mix. Can we say that word again? Domain expertise, stakeholder management, and storytelling. I don't know, there was a storytelling session. Has it held yet? Can someone help me? Not yet, please. Well, not to downplay any of those other sessions, but that's an important skill that you need. Okay? Because if you are setting up your data team, all right, you have your data scientists, your data engineers, the guys that will do machine learning, your BIS parts, and all of that. Okay? But then, you need, one of my former bosses will call it marketing managers. You need people that understand that business even within the data team. Okay, so and if you cannot even set it up that way, your team must make a conscious effort to learn about what that business is doing. If it's healthcare, you need to understand how that business is running, so that by the time you build things, you can apply what you build directly to solve the problems that are unique to that particular space. Okay, so it's very, very important. Stakeholder management, it is so. I was speaking to Ayodele during the break, and he was telling me about his own job and how he had to speak to. You have to be friendly. You have to be friendly. You have to know how to communicate. I think there was another session on communication. Am I right? There's another session here on communication to show you that the guys that put this conference together have looked at very, very salient things that are important for us to succeed in this particular phase of our careers. Okay? You need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to tell stories. You need to be able to stand up and teach and speak and go and be friendly. Okay? It's beyond just courses on this as well. Trust me, go and search today on storytelling, on stakeholder management, on soft skills, on communication. Communication can be a big deal. Oh. I'm sure some people won't know that even by the time you need to write a very, very important email, you might spend 2 days. Yeah, 2 days, an important email. You will spend 2 days. You'll be looking at it. What's the semantics and everything? 2 days. Whereas if you're writing maybe a particular script or building something, maybe that will take you hours. Remember, purple. It's not about the red or the blue. You need to have a good shade of purple. So communication is very, very key. Okay? One other thing. Self-service is a must. Okay? If you are in any organization, so if I'm in an organization and you need data from me, okay, and I'm just giving you that data, maybe via the culture in that organization, you are not. You have to create a culture where you can go to a particular place and get that data for yourself. That's just simply the concept of self-service. And today, there are so many ways that happens. You can, self-service dashboards, people can check their visuals, extract their data, do further analysis themselves. But in any organization, because I know in some organizations, data professionals feel that, okay, I write an SQL query, I extract this data based on their criteria, I give it to those who need it. But it's beyond that. You need to have a culture where they can do it themselves. Because when that happens, you free yourself as a data professional to do other things, to start to think strategically. That, okay, what is the next thing we have to do as a data team? What's the next problem we have to solve? What's the next thing we even have to learn? But if you are not, if you don't have a culture of self-service, that might be a bit difficult. Okay? I think I've spoken about this. We need to try to communicate as simply as we can. Spoken or written. I'll tell you it's something that happened. We did a project one. They were like, they didn't understand what we were saying. But then, over the years, we've learned you need to be able to communicate simply. Okay? English and writing. Finally, executive sponsorship. The reality is that you can't succeed or have a good culture of analytics in your organization if the guys up there I worked on when I was doing the interview, I asked the question, please, your data function, who does it report to? It can be important because some people, their data function will report maybe to the chief information officer or the chief financial officer or the CEO. But the most important thing is that you need to have support from up there. And if you don't have that support, should I tell you the best way to even get that support? Then you can get executive sponsorship. Okay? All right then. Thank you for your time. I think I still have a couple of minutes to take questions. You can follow me on Twitter, follow me on LinkedIn, and we can continue conversation. Oh, is this the only mic?
Hi, my name is Oluwaseun Bamdele. I'm a data analyst. I sent you a connection on LinkedIn. Sorry. So I sent you a connection on LinkedIn that you accepted. God, I beg. So I sent you a connection on LinkedIn that you accepted. Oh. Okay, I said my name is Oluwaseun Bamdele, and I said I sent you a connection on LinkedIn. So I was going to say, my question is, I was once with a startup founder that didn't recognize the role of a data analyst because I was trying to pitch myself to intern in his side. So it was like, he doesn't understand what data analyst do.
Okay. I think that one is even quite clear. Look for a problem that you know matters to him. All right? Do your analysis. Package it well. Tell your... And then in your mail, like, sir, I would like to have like 20 minutes of your time to present this to you or present my thoughts with you. Even if they don't adopt it, they will see you differently. Helps? Okay.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Ibrahim and a data analyst. You mentioned a project before you start, when starting your topic, that it was perfectly... Can you tell us, apart from the project, probably the shareholders were not informed from the beginning of the project, what other things do you think happened at the end of the day that it was purely used or was not used at all?
Okay, you want to know why? Okay, I think in hindsight, I think what we did wrongly then was, we like to use this word in Nigeria, carry along. We like to use it a lot. We didn't carry them along. We had an idea of what we wanted to do, and you, as a data professional, you should not be afraid to drop things and not do it anymore. Do you get? We were fixated that we were going to build this. Not really interested. We wouldn't have done the work. We would have moved to something else. But we were fixated on the fact that this is a nice to have, a fantastic, it will solve this for you, solve that for you. But if we had engaged well and understood and listened well enough from them that not that they don't need it. If they don't want it, it's another different thing. If they're not good, they don't feel like using it and we cannot convince them, we'd have probably just dropped it and moved on to something else. Okay? As professionals, we should not be afraid that if it's not working, drop it. Move on to the next one. Okay? All right. Maybe one more question. I think there's...
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Desmond. I'm a data engineer / analyst. So I recently developed a data system that cut across 5 departments in the organization I work. It took me 3 months to develop that system, and I pitched a demo. To the organization after developing the system. Everybody was impressed. During the meeting, everybody was impressed. People were giving their feedback and everything. 2 weeks later, people were asking data. Instead of so you talk about self-service, right? So instead of these guys to just go to the data system, get whatever data you want, get the insights you want from there, they still run up to, okay, this department wants a data on certain things, and we know that this data is at this department, so they just run off to that while that data is already on the data system. So how do you get an organization to move to that one place? We talk about centralized data system. So how can you get them to just move to that place and get it? Because you look at one thing that, should I say, makes me a little bit annoyed is you work hard, everybody gets, now on the data system, you have an accurate data. Now, when you go to this department, maybe they did not clean the data, and then you decide to collect the data and clean it yourself. You get a different figure, and then that's what you now use in the public. So you end figures. So how do you get a department, the organization to go to one place? Thank you.
Wow, 3 months. You can feel his passion. You can feel his frustration, really. So, in reality, maybe one thing I must have left out. Have you heard of the word change management? You know, human beings, we don't like change. We don't like change. If you are used to probably taking this route to work every day, you probably just keep taking that particular route to work. So there's change management. In organizations, they actually have people that drive change management. Okay? So in that particular place, it's what I would really advise is that you have to more like create a plan for change management. Okay? Or make a case for change management. All right? Because no matter if people will still like to, if the will to change into something different is normally very, very hard. Okay? But then if you look at it even from us as well, okay, we normally like to just keep things the way they are and the likes. But really, in essence, really, you need more like a core change management plan to sort of institute for them to be able to move to that. Let me ask, is the application, it's deployed in production? Is in production? Are some people using it? Okay, so one other thing you can do is that extract reports of those who are using it. Look for success stories. And from those success stories, try that and communicate that to the entire organization. Okay, look for ambassador, not a one size fits all. You have to labor in it and keep on pushing and pushing. But then take some of those ideas, brainstorm for others, and use those success stories, communicate to organizations, and hopefully they'll be able to adopt. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jalasho, for that interesting session. Quickly, we would go to the final breakout session for today. Final breakout session, I know. The final breakout session for today, Nairobi Hall, where we are here, we have who is a researcher. Nairobi Hall, who is a researcher. Cairo Hall, at the foyer, up and to your right, contextual thinking and storytelling for data professionals. Abidjan Hall, the gallery to my left. Data literacy. Window Hall, the gallery to my right. Writing, a career for data professionals. And finally, Luanda Hall, Julius Berger. Blockchain analytics, learn and earn opportunities for data professionals and enthusiasts. So let's quickly go back to those halls or go to whatever hall you're interested in. Everybody is expected to come back here at 3:55. We're going to start the joint session at 3:55.
everyone. Hi, can you hear me? I'm clear, right? Okay, awesome. I'm waiting for my slide to come up. But before then, I just want to introduce what this topic is about. So, many of us have heard about research, right? I mean, like, even in school, research is a common terminology, right? But aside that, in terms of ML, we've also heard about ML researchers, and some of us have heard about ML engineering. And sometimes there is confusion what the difference between these two. But this talk is going to be focused on research. What does research really entail? How can I become a researcher? How do I write my first paper? Right? And I feel like every audience here is an ML person. At least you've had like a very basic knowledge of what ML means, right? And you have a basic knowledge of what research means theoretically. So we're going to like kick off with that. So, but before I proceed, my name is Sharon Ibeji, a machine learning engineer, and I've worked on quite a number of research papers with my previous team and with some independent researchers too. My research focus has been around natural language processing and speech processing for low-resource languages, right? So I'm going to start first with what does research mean? Research typically is trying to understand or try to like investigate into something, right? To understand what people have done before and what needs to be done, right? Okay, yeah, the slide is here. Okay, thank you. Right. Thank you. Okay. So now, research is a process of investigating into something, understanding what people have done in the past, right, and experimenting with those things to come up with new conclusions, right? Then some of popular research works that we've known are quite many. For example, the electricity that is powering this place and our devices, right? Number two is that many of us made use of Google Maps. Google Maps is one of the research works from Google, which helps us navigate locations, right? And then we also work with programming languages. Those that work with Python and code, these are works of research. And you can agree with me that the goal of research is to improve the way things are done in the past. Okay, so now what is machine learning research? Okay, so before we proceed, what's machine learning, right? Machine learning is, sorry, this is really messing up. So machine learning is trying to like tell you or like try to imitate how humans learn, right? It tries to like look at patterns in data and mimic the way human beings are going to behave when they come across such data. So, but when we talk about research in machine learning, it revolves about understanding the way machines learn. Like, we're trying to improve the existing methodologies, improve the way things are being done. For example, in terms of training, how do you train your model? In terms of bias, how do you ensure that your model is not being biased to a particular face or particular accent or particular language? How do you provide data? How do you deploy your models? How does your model perform, right? And then how do you monitor the performance of your model? These are all areas of research in machine learning. Okay, so now who are machine learning researchers, right? Machine learning researchers are people that are among us. Number one, they are people that are parts of communities. They are individuals who work by themselves. They are not affiliated with any school or any organization. Researchers are people that work in organization labs. For example, you might have heard about Google Research or IBM Research or Facebook Research. The staff that work there are researchers. They are not in school, right? They are researchers. And then we have academics. These are like professors, postdocs, PhD students. And this tells us that you do not have to, like your research experience or your research competence is not tied to a degree. You do not need to have a PhD to become a researcher, right? You can be any of these. And so what are the qualities of a researcher? Number one is that as a researcher, you have to be curious. I'm not sure why this is not working. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so as a researcher, number one, you have to be curious. Curiosity means that you want to find out how things are done, like how is this thing made possible, right? Then another thing is that you need to learn from existing works. You can't discover something that you don't understand the foundations. You need to understand what people have done before, how did they accomplish this. And you need to be the person that asks questions like why. For example, you have speech recognition systems. Why don't we have speech recognition systems for Yoruba or for Igbo language? What if we try this and that? Can we improve this? What if we get so many data sets across the world? Can we get a single speech recognition system that will understand any language? These are questions of a researcher. They try to ask in-depth questions, right? And then they are highly collaborative because as a researcher, you do not work alone. You can't be a researcher and stand alone. Oftentimes, you collaborate with people. Oftentimes, you can see some research papers that 2-3 people, sometimes 10-50 people wrote a paper. They work together, right? Even if you're working on your own, you need to get ideas from other people too. So now, what are some areas of machine learning research that you could focus on? Number one is fairness and inclusion. Fairness has been a very popular topic in machine learning. What does fairness mean? Fairness basically means how do you make your model, right? How do you make your model in a way that it's not being biased to anybody? It's robust enough to understand. Like there are people that when Google Meet worked on something around detecting face and making your face look clearer. People say that it's being biased to certain faces, to certain complexion. So how do you ensure that you're not having a bias? Then how do you include people that are not represented enough, right? These are areas of research. Number two is theoretical foundations of deep learning. If you are the maths person, you love theories, you love calculation, you could focus on this part. You look at the mathematical parts of deep learning, how were they able to calculate this, you try to research on that. Then computation bias is in terms of computation, your training time. There are some models you want to train. It takes like 2 days, weeks to train, right? So that's an area of research. How can I reduce the time of training a model to hours or weeks or thereabout? And then we have data privacy, we have domain. Domain parts could be in terms of health, climate, agriculture, how can ML solve a problem? If you have a degree in any of these and you're interested in ML, it could be your area of research. How can I use ML to solve a problem in this? Then societal impact, speech. How can we communicate? If I don't understand your language and you understand mine, right? Or in terms of how can we make ML to help people communicate with each other? How do we use computer vision to improve the way people communicate? If you saw my previous slide, I showed a guy. That was Steven. I don't know if Steven is here. That was Steven. Steven did a very interesting work on sign to speech, whereby when someone uses a sign language, it's translating what the person is doing into speech. And that's a very interesting work because it's solving a problem, which is a societal impact too. Then number 7 is data collection and annotation. I've worked quite a lot in this field, right, in terms of speech data for low resource speech. I've worked on, our accent speech data, on salmon speech data, and the annotation part of it, because we are trying to improve or create data for machine learning models. Then we have model evaluations. Do you think some models are not being evaluated well? You can also question evaluation metrics like accuracy score, F1 score. Can there be better evaluations for these things like this, right? So now, but someone would ask me here that machine learning research is boring. There are so many papers to read. Every day, people are working on papers. I mean, it just actually, looking at it from a distance, it feels boring. But how do you cope with a lot of research that people are doing? Number one is that if you're interested in research here, the first step for you to do is join a research community. Before the end of the slide, I'll mention some communities you can join. Join a research community. You're going to find people that are interested in your research, right? Or people that you're interested in their own research. Number 2 is that follow ML researchers on Twitter. Twitter is a very good place. I love that space. So there are a lot of researchers that you can follow on Twitter, and once there's something interesting, they're going to post it and you get updated. Then there's also a place called, you can Google it, Papers with Code, right? Or Ask IV Sanity. You can just Google them, right? So these places, they keep you updated on recent papers. The good part of Papers with Code is that you're not just seeing the paper. If you like coding, you will also see their GitHub repository, the code at which they use in writing that paper, like everything is detailed. So you could also check there. Then you can also have researchers like me as your friend. And whenever we find papers that are interesting to us, we can just share the chat, right? So now, how do you carry out an ML research? I want you to know that if you've ever worked on Jupyter Notebook here, just wave your hand. Now, I'm telling you that if you've ever done anything on Jupyter Notebook, you've been a researcher, knowingly or unknowingly to you, right? Now, research typically means you're doing something that means you're experimenting something. For example, when you're training a model, as simple as a house pricing prediction model, it's research. You know why? You're experimenting different models. You might have tried 2-3 models. You might have checked out Kaggle or checked Google on some things people have done. It's a research. But the difference between that one and this one I'm talking about is that, number one, research is targeted at solving a problem. So you need to understand a problem first. Number two, you need to deeply understand what other people have done, the approaches they've taken. Number three, you come back to your experimental notebook, that your Jupyter notebook, and try some of these processes. See whether they work, see whether they suit into what you're trying to solve. If they don't solve it, then it begs a question of, how can I improve on this, right? And that's where research comes in. Research means that you're trying to contribute to something that already exists. You're not stopping where others stopped. You're trying to take a step forward, right? Then number three is that ensure you document your observations. My former team lead will tell me that even if you failed in something, it's a result. Failures are results too. So the fact that you tried something and it doesn't work and then you trash it, nah. Because as you're trashing that, someone else here could work on similar problem and have to repeat the same thing that you did and face the same failure. So whenever you fail or something, just always document it and share with people. Then the last part is that conclude on the best approach that could solve the problem. And even if there is none, it's still fine. At that point, also mention that this was what you tried, this was what you encountered, and this is where you stopped, so that someone else can pick up from there and probably find a solution. Then the next thing is that I've done an experiment, so how can I present my work? How can I write a paper? How do I bring my work out there? Now, I also want to mention that being a researcher doesn't mean you need to write a research paper. Sometimes all you need to write is an article or a blog, and you post it probably on Medium or Hashnode, and that's it. But if you want to go beyond and become a paper writer, right? Number one thing is that you need to understand that there are conferences or workshops that will appreciate your efforts. There are a lot of conferences that exist. So find that one and then write a paper on it. Then number two is that submit that paper. If it's accepted, that's fine. You're going to talk about your paper either as a talk or as a poster presentation. But I'll explain more on this in the coming slide. Then this is a very big question. How do I define my research niche? How do I know what I'm interested in? There are people that are fortunate, they have a domain knowledge. People that worked in health or agriculture, they know that their ML focus is going to be on that. But there are also people like me. I studied physics, so I don't really have any domain stuff like that. So how do you define what interests you, right? Now, I want to mention that the answer is not a straightforward answer. You're not going to sleep and wake up and discover what interests you. You need to work on a couple of projects, or at least write a couple of research papers, or even read some research papers to find what triggers your interest. But the two key things here is that what topics draw your interest the most? What are you most inquisitive about? What do you see? And you questions, and you begin to question it that this doesn't really work, right? And then, what aspects of ML do you think needs to be improved? So let's go straight into Africa, ML in Africa. The major challenges we have in Africa in research are the following. Number one, data availability. We mentioned this quite a lot. Data is our problem. So if you have a research interest in data collection and annotation, please go for it, right? There are a lot of data problems. If you check Kaggle, you see a lot of interesting data, but we don't have such for our nation here. So then another thing is inability to access computation resource. Computation is expensive. When I mean computation, I mean like GPU, which we use to train models. Many of us don't have access to that. Many of us are independent researchers. All you need to do is open your laptop and that's it. So whenever you're working on something on your laptop alone, it could take you like hours and weeks to work on, right? Which is not an advantage. Then we have very few past research works to study, right? Now, if you're looking at low resource, when I mean low resource, I mean projects that are not really represented enough. For example, if you're doing Pidgin speech to text, if you're doing Yoruba speech to text, these are low resource because you won't come online and you see a lot of research on that. So there are very few past research works to study. Oftentimes, it feels like you're the one coming up with a novel idea and you have a lot of work to do. Then there are high dependence on other models, like Google. Google have done something like BERT. BERT is the model that helps us to, whenever you're trying to Google something, right, and you type like the first 3-4 words, Google will help predict the next 2-3 words that are going to come next to that. Everyone has seen that, right? Now, these are large pre-trained models, which you can actually use to improve on for a native language. But sometimes it begs the question of English language is represented differently from our native language. So since we are depending so much on these pre-trained models, if they do not align with our use case, it becomes a problem. Then we have lack of funds. And most important thing again is lack of research, very few research labs. Unlike in Europe, where we have Google Research, IBM, although we have some of them here in Africa, but they're not very reachable. I mean, how many research labs do you know as a Nigerian? So we don't have access to such. Now, I'm coming back to this, right? So now I'm back to this topic. How do you write your first research paper? Which is the main thing and the key thing of this talk. Number one is that reach out to researchers that you know, or if you're in a community, there are people that you feel like these people have done 1 or 2 research papers. Reach out to them. But the key thing is that ensure that you fit into their problem statements. If you do not align with the problem statement, then you would not contribute anything to that project. Number 2 is that ensure that whatever you're writing is clear and is tied to that project's problem statement. You're actually solving that problem. Then number 3 is that your results should show a comparison with other methods. Remember that research, the goal is to, improve on what exists. So what has been done before and what is your contribution? How is your own method better than what people have done before? Then state your contribution to the paper, right? Then take out time to proofread and share with the reviewer. So ensure that you're not just writing a paper and submitting. Cross-check what you've done. And there are many writing tools, like Grammarly is helpful these days. Then submit your work to an appropriate workshop. When I mean appropriate, I mean that there are workshops that do not care about whatever you're writing because your paper does not suit into their interest. For example, some workshops are strictly for low-resourced natural language works. And if you are coming with a work that is not low-resourced, they are not going to accept it, right? So look for a workshop that is interested in your work and submit there and give it a shot. But be open to corrections. Whenever you submit a paper, they have top reviewers that are going to review what you've submitted, and they'll give you feedback on your submission. Some will give you feedback and reject your paper. Some will give you feedback and accept your paper. Whatever be the case, just be open whether it's going to be accepted or not. So now I'm going to wrap up with this. I want you to know that you do not need a PhD to do a research. Do you agree with me now? Do you agree with me? Awesome. Then being a researcher in Africa requires to do a lot of work, which is interesting because sometimes it gives you the opportunity to come up with novel ideas, like that's new ideas, right? And then you can co-author a paper without actually writing. If you don't like writing, it doesn't stop you from having a paper. What I mean is that I worked on a couple of papers where I didn't write a single word. All I needed to do is I collaborated with them. I was more on the modeling parts, the data cleaning parts, just be the engineer behind that paper, and then your writers can do their work, right? Then the next thing is that being a part of a research community will be very helpful to you. And some examples here are SouthDB. SouthDB is affiliated with AI Saturdays. You can check them out on Twitter. Then DSN has a lot of community groups, DSN AI Plus. Then we have Masakane. Masakane is for people that are interested in NLP. natural language processing. So if you're interested, it's an African community for NLP. You can join them on Slack, check them on Twitter. They'll have ML Collective. Steven is here. So meet him if you're interested in ML Collective. He's their brand ambassador. They'll have Black in AI. Black in AI is it's a community for blacks that are doing AI, not just Africans, but blacks generally, right? And then we have women in machine learning. It's a community for women in machine learning. So there are actually more communities. I may not have everything in my head. So if you're here and you're familiar with some of these communities, you can just show the neighbor. So just check them out on Twitter, and you can be a part of this. So yeah, I think I've come to an end of this, and thank you for listening. And yeah, so let me know if you have questions. Any questions? Okay. There's no mic. Please, can anyone give him mic? Anyone? I'm not sure anyone is there. Please let me ask them for mic.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, two questions. I picked two questions from what you were saying. So the first is on. I see that you're very interested in language, machine learning, language, and processing. So, what I noticed was, from what you said, it means that. So the question is basically, how do you train natural language for indigenous tribes in Nigeria, where, for example, you're trying to model the data to interpret, just like Google said, predict the next. Maybe say the next words that could help me in natural language processing. But when the model itself is written in, or the code itself, or the language interpretation is written in English itself, so I don't know how effective can that be, considering that we have tongues and native dialects that are a bit clustered around a diverse country as Nigeria. The second question would be the question around open source data. So, like you mentioned in Cargo, where there's availability of data for Nigeria. I was just discussing with my friend just early this morning. I was trying to write a get data set for full scarcity that is going to occur maybe next year. So the question would be, do you write? I'm looking at the solution now. Do we need to come together as maybe say DataFest community to start pushing for policies for government to release data sets to be open source, just as they do in the United States? So what are the actionable steps we can do to promote open source data for people to have access to this information?
All right. So for the first question, in terms of language understanding, right? So there was a time I was working on a project in terms of Yoruba language model, so that we could predict the next coming words. But the challenge we had is that Yoruba had different dialects. The data collected from one source had its dialect, and that source had another dialect, and then the model was just messing up. But how I discovered that the problem was dialect issue was that when I tried on a little data from a single source, the model was promising, right? It wasn't as good, but it was more promising than when I had more data from different sources, you get? So, but what I'm trying to say is that research takes time, right? It takes time. Oftentimes, you're tied back to going to source more data, and not just more data, more clean data, you get? So now, if I'm talking about dialect issue, it means that it's either I get a whole lot of data that covers all dialects, or I focus on one dialect and get enough data that can train that model. But the good thing is that if you check places like Hugging Face has a lot of models, which one can always pick up and fine-tune. But fine-tuning requires you to get more data. So just read up on any model you find interesting on Hugging Face, which can be fine-tuned, and see how you can fine-tune it on a native language, and see what results you're going to get. Does that answer the first question? Then second question, in terms of data. Now, for data collection, there are data collections that are within your capacity. Like when I mean like the Yoruba data set I talked about, I could go to church, I could get maybe Yoruba sermons, I could check Yoruba movies, I could check Yoruba articles. You know, it's within your space. You have the power to check any source you want. Then there are some sources that requires you, like you said, it's not within your power. You need to go to some authority to ask them for such data, right? Now, in terms of such, I would say that for people to achieve that, it will require extra efforts because it's not just a one-man thing and you walk into an office and tell them, can you release my data? Because it also asks questions like data privacy, right? So it requires probably an organization talking to an authority, right? And then promises of, I'm going to hide every private data, every private information in this data that needs to be hidden. You get so things like that requires effort. There are data collection companies outside the country, and there are also data collection groups. I don't know if we have some here. I don't know, but if we have some, then you could be a part of it. Like if you find out if there are some, you could be a part of it, right? And when you have data like that, Cargo is open. You can upload data, even as an individual. You can upload your data set there, give the description of the data, and then everyone has access to it. Does that answer your question? It's answered the question, right? Thank you. Okay.
We'll just take one more question.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good
My name is Olufemi Victor. Nice to meet you. So I want to ask, as someone with interest in the research space and all, sometimes reading research papers seem overwhelming, right? Especially with maybe a lot of jargons and big mathematical functions. So are there some tips, advice, or tactics you can give? To
I get. Okay, so again, it depends on your research interest, right? If you're interested in you can sit down. If you're interested in theoretical parts of machine learning, right, then you have to read those jargons in quotes, right? But if it's not your interest, there are other papers that do not have. I know the type of papers you're talking about. I've seen a lot of recent papers relating to NLP, computer vision, for example, that are not mathematical at all. They go straight to the point. That their problem statements and the solution they are coming with. There are lots of research papers like that. So if your interest is theoretical parts of ML, then you have to face that. If it's not, then you wouldn't have to bother. You won't find such in your papers. All right.
All right, thank you.
So one more question. Sorry, can I just get that question at your back?
Okay, thank you for a wonderful session.
Okay.
You are talking of ML research, but there's a lot of research papers out there, and the way I see it, if you do a research, it ends there. It doesn't help anyone until it's in production, because can you drive societal impact if the research is not in production? So my question is, how do you consolidate ML research and ML in production?
So in terms of these research papers, these research works are not in production, right? That's what you're asking, right? Now, that's a very, very good question. And that's one problem that research labs are trying to solve. Their goal is to research on something and implement it. But then we have industry researchers. Industry researchers are people that research for production. You're not researching to stop at publication, writing papers and stopping there. They implement it in products, right, and launch it. So if you're an industry researcher, you have more things to put into consideration. Number one, like computation. How long does it take for your model to give a prediction? Very large models, it takes them minutes to return it. And you know that model is not good for production. So there are many things you need to put into consideration when doing an industry research. And same thing too, there are many research works that you cannot implement in production. Like many top researchers you're saying on Twitter, you cannot implement them because they are very large and they take time to run, right? So I think that's answered your question, right? Good. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for me. That was an awesome one. Yeah. So while we wait for other participants of this event to join us, let's just take some time, say hi to someone. Yeah. Help your neighbor, if your neighbor is sleeping already. All other speakers can round up now. Let's find our way to the main hall. Yeah, let's get seated, please. Next section is about comments. If you are still in the gallery, please come down. Let's get seated. Okay, one house, please. Hi, everyone. Hello. Hello. We are not smiling. We are not excited. Hello. Okay. Yeah. So it's time to get under my fi. And this time around, it's going to be a simple question. Yeah. So we'll do it this way. I need 3 people on the stage with me. Yeah. 1. I need 3 people on the stage with me. Okay. 2. On the stage. Wow. It's 3 already. Okay. So Yeah, it's going to be a simple question. Yeah. And yeah, come this way, please. You can't look at your tags. Just look at me. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes, so the question is simple. How many sponsors? Don't look back. How many sponsors
it's coming.
do we have for DataFest Africa, the first edition? Yeah, ladies first. Yeah, introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and answer the question. Then whichever of you gets the number,
Okay.
we'll take it to the next question.
All right. My name is Adejoke Olaoshebikon. People call me Jocelyn, and okay, so I'm a BI analyst. Okay, yes. So how many sponsors do we have? Okay, I'm just about to do trial and error because I don't know. Okay, between 6 to 8.
Okay? Yeah. What's your answer? Okay. Introduce yourself and tell us your answer. Sister, look at me. Don't look back. Look at me.
Okay, my name is Andy
If
Kingsley.
you look back, you go down the stage.
I'm a data analyst.
Okay.
Okay, because I know we posted it once on DataFest Africa Twitter timeline. 14.
Okay.
I'm right.
Okay. Yeah. Give it to her.
Okay, my name is...
You know we had a late sponsor though.
My name is Afi Blessing. I'm a data analyst, and the number of sponsors 14.
Okay. Are you also going for 14? When I said
13 to 14.
13 to 14. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so are you going to choose one? We had a late sponsor. Are you going to choose one? Like, choose a number. Don't give me a range.
Okay. So is it 13 or is it 14?
13 or 14?
Is it have a list so I can pick 15?
You said?
Okay, let me go with 13.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Ladies, please use the exit.
So do we have a winner?
So the guy, we don't have a winner yet though for the guy. Yeah. He needs to mention at least. If we have 14, he needs to mention at least. He said they posted it once, so he saw the post. So he needs to mention at least 7. Yeah, thank you. You can go. Yeah, look at me. Don't look back. Yeah, 7 sponsors. If you like, look at my tag.
Okay, DB Brown Consulting.
We're not hearing you. Give it belly.
Okay. DB Brown Consulting. Stack.
DB Brown.
Yes.
Okay.
D Brown, sorry. D Brown Consulting.
Okay.
Paystack. Sterling Bank. Shotlers.
I think we are
Microsoft.
going to cancel this section.
Please wait. Microsoft. Paystack.
You've mentioned Paystack before. Spotify, you have tried.
Sterling Bank is not a sponsor. It is something else.
One bank. Sterling Bank, one bank.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Quickly, before we go to the last panel, I will just find one tweet that catches my fancy. With Microsoft Purview, a growing data landscape can be managed It also enables unified data governance and increases data agility at DataFest Africa, at the Data Duke, at Inkalke, at DataFest Africa. Tolulokwe, DataFest Africa. Are you here?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's time for the next section, and it would be a talk by one of our sponsors. That's Naim Analytics. And yeah, let's just fix our gaze on the screen while we watch the video from them.
More and more businesses rely on data, and today, more than ever, business success relies on getting fast insights out of that data. From finding new cures to diseases, to reliably predicting energy usage in cities, or making transportation systems faster and safer, data science teams are charged with creating and delivering reliable analytical applications and services to enable better decision-making. Wouldn't it be great if your data science team could focus on what they do best, from gathering and wrangling data, or making sense of it with sophisticated modeling and visualization techniques, and with the tools and techniques they like using? NIME makes this possible in one uniform, intuitive environment. NIME Analytics Platform is the open-source software for creating data science. Intuitive, open, and continuously integrating new developments, it makes understanding data and designing data science workflows and reusable components accessible to everyone. As you can see, building and executing a workflow is easy, and no coding is needed, although if you do want to include code, NIME allows that too. Node after node, you can assemble an entire workflow, with each node performing a dedicated task. The NIME Hub contains hundreds of ready-to-run workflows, plus all the available nodes and components with information on what they do. NIME connects to a host of databases, file formats, web services, cloud storage systems, and big data repositories. It offers a large number of ETL, data blending and data manipulation functionalities, and can visualize your data with classic charts, bar charts and scatter plots, for example, or advanced charts, such as sunburst charts, parallel coordinates, or network views. NIME also offers a large number of machine learning models such as decision trees, ensemble models, logistic regression, deep learning, and more. And since NIME is open, you can do all of this using your favorite tools. NIME integrates seamlessly with other open source projects such as R, Python, Keras, H2O, Apache Spark, and more. But nobody is an island. Assembling data science workflows requires help and contributions from your data science colleagues. NIME Analytics Platform is complemented by NIME Server, the enterprise software for collaboration, automation, management and deployment of data science workflows as analytical applications and services. Connect to NIME Server directly from NIME Analytics Platform and share your workflows and components throughout the organization. When your users access to web-based analytical applications. The NIME Web Portal, a feature of NIME Server, enables you to deliver your workflows as interactive web-based analytical applications. End users, like business leaders, can be walked through the complex interactions via a sequence of predetermined web pages, pulling them into the data science process at the right places and enabling them to get the insights they need. Scaling the execution of your workflows is also possible with NIME, either by using the Big Data and Apache Spark integrations, by taking advantage of the distributed executors on NIME Server, or by moving your NIME workflows into the cloud. From gathering and wrangling your data to leveraging insights from them, NIME software can help you with both creating and productionizing data science. Find out how at nime.com.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a second video from another sponsor, Advancing Analytics.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. For all of the data fans, Spark fans, Purview fans, Synapse fans, Microsoft fans, and anything and everything in between. So if you're a subscriber, you already know what we do. We talk about data and the nerdy stuff that keeps us entertained. Mostly we talk about Spark in Delta as an open source format, or even just the new things that are coming out in that space. But you, noble subscriber, all we want to know is, what should we talk about? We've got loads of different data science videos coming out. We've got loads more data engineering videos coming out. What are the things that keep you awake at night that you want to hear from us about? Just drop us a note, drop us a comment in a video. Go enjoy our big old pile of backlog of videos anyway. And yeah, thanks for joining, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you around soon.
So finally, the last item that we have right now, or the last panel session for today, is the panel session from startups. Sorry. We have the final panel session. Startups, yes, actually, I was right the first time. Final panel session for today, which is startups. Before we go fully into that, please, all the speakers that spoke today, especially at the breakout sessions, we need to see all of you. Please, this lady right here, she will be at the photo booth outside, not the one outside, the one just outside the hall. Please, all the speakers from all the breakout sessions, please go there and meet her. Thank you. For our final panel session, I would be inviting the panelists, and the first person on that panel is Ibot Tabi. Ibot is the founder of Voyance HQ, a data infrastructure company democratizing access to data science. He has deep expertise in modern software engineering, including development, distributed data processing engines, middleware architecture, machine learning tools, and API integration. He's also experienced in building and scaling high-performing engineering teams. And at Voyance, he currently leads a team building the next generation of data infrastructure and engineering platform. Please welcome with me Ibot Tabi. Also, someone who serves as the head of data and insights at Kobo 360. Prior to Kobo 360, he had a 2-year stint at Wapik Insurance, now Coronation Insurance, where he set up their first data analytics unit. He has a unique blend of experience across data and software engineering, spanning over a decade. Outside of work, he is a data thought leader on LinkedIn, where he actively writes about data engineering and Python programming weekly. He also holds an executive MBA from the prestigious Quantic School of Business and Technology. Please welcome with me Pascal Ama. And finally, we have the final panelist who works as a data analyst at Paystack. He has worked with different startups in the last 4 years as data analyst to provide actionable insights through the development of dashboards and reports from data made available by engineering teams. He has designed sales dashboards to track revenue generation from Salesforce, churn performance tracker, plan versus actual performance tracker, and other important data tracking systems. Invite Daniel Asuego. We've said a lot of things today about how to land a job, how to and a lot of things. So I will try to make this session focus on some things that we might not have talked about today, just so that we can learn from the experience of our panelists. And my first question I'm going to direct at Pascal. because you have grown data teams in different organizations and you currently lead a data team. And that question is, what are some key factors that will ensure success of data initiatives within a startup?
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me. So, what is necessary for growing data teams? That's what you said, right?
No, that will ensure success of data initiatives.
Okay. So, from my perspective and from the little experience I have, data initiatives are better driven when they are tied to actual business challenges. No matter how beautiful a pipeline you build, your dashboards, the reports, and the stories you tell, if there is no problem you are solving that the company or your organization wants to solve, you could be solving 1,001 of them, but none of them is what your business wants to solve, then it's not going to work. So first of all, find a business case, understand it, and provide the solutions that whoever has that challenge is trying to solve.
Okay, so very similar to that, I'll direct this at Mr. Ebert because you're sort of at a decision-making place. And so when we find this, so he has said that your initiative must be sort of tied to a business problem or objective. So can you tell us what are some data use cases that can drive strategic objectives in an organization or in a startup?
Okay, so it's nice we have a Paystack staff here. So I'm going to use Paystack as an example use case, right? Paystack is a very important company. What they do kind of like enable other businesses to grow, right? So for them, reliability is one key thing. They'll collect data around the entire infrastructure, right? Alongside with that, Paystack wants to ensure that every single transaction that goes through their platform, they need to understand if that transaction is legitimate or fraudulent, right? In cases of like chargeback. So as a business, one of their key strategies would be ensuring that every single card payment that goes through their platform is all legitimate. There won't be a chargeback because that's a very pertinent problem, right? Or rigs team is to ensure there is integrity for every single transaction that goes through. So the engineers and a couple of other people will come together and say, okay, here is the key objectives or strategy. As a business, we want to ensure there is that compliance and security in place, that for every single card transactions that goes through our platform, we can monitor, we can prevent or proactively, prevent risks from happening by driving value for the merchants on their platform. So that could be a very strong objective for an organization like Paystack to ensure that, hey, for every single thing we are doing, for every single API call that goes from any platform to our own infrastructure, one, it's not a denial of service attack, it's not a chargeback fraud that is happening. So data plays a key role in understanding that entire end-to-end process.
Okay, thank you. I would direct my next question to Daniel. Like when I was reading your bio, I read that you'd work across different startups. So what would you say are the common challenges that startups face in implementing data initiatives?
Okay. Thank you for using Paystack as a wonderful example, right? Yeah, so what are the challenges startups face when implementing data initiatives? First of all, I will look at the literacy level of the organization, right? Data literacy, right? If the organization is not data literate, that will be a problem, right? To push your initiatives. You don't want to just build dashboard without people understanding what these dashboards mean. And again is the leadership. I think leadership plays a very big role for every startup that wants to push data initiatives, right? If the leaders of the company don't want to utilize or don't understand the need of data, they won't push your agenda. Like as a data engineer or a data lead, if you're pushing an agenda and the leaders, they feel like it's not necessary and you are not solving a particular use case, right? If they don't understand, if they don't understand the use case that you're trying to solve, the leaders will always push back. And sometimes if they don't have the vision of what to use the data for, that would be that's a hindrance. Like it's always difficult. It will be a blocker for you to push your initiatives as a data person in a startup.
Okay, see, I like how this discussion is going because there's something that seems that has been echoed by a lot of speakers today, which is the actual implementation of data initiatives in an organization. And it seems like sometimes, I remember the guy that asked a question where he spent 3 months building a solution and then the company said they didn't want it, or they weren't, okay, not that they didn't want it, people were not using it. People were still coming back to him to ask for data. And that happens all the time. And I think one of the speakers also had a similar example. So my question is, and I'm going to want to hear the thoughts of all of the panelists regarding this. In an organization, and especially a startup, who should be the chief driver of data initiatives so that we can get it implemented? Because we're getting worried that we're building solutions and they're not using it. So who should be the person that carries it on their head?
Okay, so I'll go first. In a scenario like this, you need the buy-in of those who are at the top, right? Because they make the case for the use case here in terms of the business, what they are trying to solve, right? There has to be a problem that will either improve revenue. People at the top always look at it from this perspective. Is it enabling me to increase revenue, drive customer experience, right? Reducing churn, and a couple of other key strategies within the business. So when you're approaching, let's say your line manager or the CTO or the head of data or head of infrastructure, head of BI, and you want to drive such key processes, you want to ensure your project is always aligned with company goals, right? Because every other thing they see is a cost. And for them, if we're bringing in any key data process in play, it has to resonate with the key objectives of the business. It could be on a quarterly basis or for the entire fiscal year. So if you're pushing a project and you tell your line manager like, hey, this will enable other stakeholders like in the marketing team to drive more engagement online. The thing is that engagement needs to translate into either dollar revenue or Naira revenue. But when that section is missing, basically they will see that as an expenses that has no return on investment. So technically they will not pick up on the project. They'll tell you, okay, we can look at this next quarter. It's a nice way to tell you, no, we're not going to launch that.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Pascal.
Okay, so I find out that whoever stays in a position to listen and observe will tend to come up with the better data initiatives. This is what I mean. And there are particular situations where you listen to and you see the data opportunities that you can use to really solve business problems. So depending on the industry, to an industry like where I work, operations is heavy because, I mean, there is physical work involved in logistics operations and managing them, right? So you might have some very smart ideas about how things could work on the ground, but trying to apply them proved to be, I mean, like on a different lane. So the best thing I found that works is to sit down and listen. Appreciate where these guys who are speaking, especially the operations people, are coming from, understand what the bottlenecks are, and think about the data you have, the data that you collect. Is there a way you can unblock those blockers for them? But if you don't listen, if you don't figure out what the bottlenecks are, you are likely going to be bringing solutions that cause more problems for them, right? So that's one angle to see it, apart from top management downwards. Because top management knows what they want. They want what they want. If there's no money coming, you're on your own. It's next quarter, and you know what next quarter means.
So when I finish building it, who is going to drive the adoption?
Okay, who's going to drive the adoption after building your project, right? Now you need to know something that, like, after building it, you can actually drive it yourself, right? Or you can, let's say, build what we call data champions in different departments, right? Data champions are people who sit in a particular department, and they are the ones to drive data initiatives. Once they have, if anybody in the team have a question about data, they reach out to the data champions, right? So you liaise with those data champions, right, to kind of drive your own initiative within the team, because you're a central team, right? Because you're in the central, you can't be at different places at the same time. So it's like creating data citizens, right? Trying to create data citizens that understand the usage. And from time to time, you actually hold, let's say, office hours for everybody in the company, just to understand this is the tool we have and this is what we can do. So what I like doing is like showing work, right? Showing what you're doing, right? So if you look at a particular operation case and you see that, okay, for you guys to do this report, it's taking you like 2 hours or 3 hours daily. In a month, it's taking you a lot of hours to do, right? If, as a data person, I've been able to solve that problem, I'll push it out, I will evangelize it, I will shout it. This is what I have solved, right? Solving those use cases day in, day out will definitely make everybody buy into your solutions that you provide in the organizations.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm processing all of the information that you guys are giving us, and I think that I like that we have like different perspectives to it, and it's just important for us because like you're in logistics, you're in payment, and then you're in a data infrastructure company. It just helps us to see how all of this plays out in different environments. Mr. Pascal, what are some key tools that data teams will require?
I think half of people who know me here will know the tool I'm going to say. So if you're working with a team like mine and you are working with data engineering part, incidentally, I'm a data engineer when it comes to data, right? You start and finish with Python.
Definitely do that.
Okay? Let me tell you why. More than 50% of the tools you are going to use can seamlessly integrate with Python. That's one. If they cannot integrate with Python, Python can speak to it. It's not about Python. It's about programming languages, especially those that are good with scripting, right? Scala, Golang, anything that scripts well will usually have a way to communicate with any system you want to work with, right? But then Python has a team of madmen, right? If you think about it, there's a Python module. There's likely a Python module for it. So if you work out of Python, you solve your problems the way you want to solve it, right? I try to picture it this way. You have a tool that goes this way, okay? The tool goes this way. If your problem doesn't go this way and you use that tool, you are doing some other thing. So that's what I see when I see people who force themselves to get into one modern data stack or the other, without finding out whether you can solve their problem. But if you're using a scripting language, you know your problem, you begin to solve your problem how you want it. And a number of these tools actually started as things that solve problems for particular organizations. They mature it over time, open source it, and we are buying it. That's at least 60, 70% of them. Airflow started from Airbnb and stuff like that. I'm not saying those ready-made tools, low code, no code, don't work. They totally work, right? But my point is, if your problem is not this way, like that low code solution, and you try to force yourself into it, you're going to have problem. So my team is going to be made up mostly of people who can code, so that we can build our own custom solutions for our particular problems.
Does someone have a contrary opinion? I feel like Python.
Right. So Pascal is the data engineer, right? So he uses Python a lot, right? But as a data analyst, right, you just like what he said, you pick tools that solve your particular problem, right? And problems can be, you choosing that tool, you're choosing a tool that can be cost effective. You don't want to bring in a tool that has a lot of cost to the company, right? So for me, I think any of the analytical tools you present to me, and for us, it's solving that problem and it's giving that visualizations, right? So, like, there are certain problems you cannot do on Metabase. I push it down to Tableau, right? Because Tableau can do it. So it's about the problem, actually. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I think I always try to avoid the tooling argument because it always goes on and on. And we say, oh, Python is the best thing since sliced bread. Oh, Power BI it is. Oh, SQL it is. And all of that and all of that. But just like Daniel has said, it really depends on the problem that you're trying to solve and what is easier to use to solve that problem. Mr. Ibot, you run a startup of your own. So I wanted to know, especially relating to something that Daniel had said, he talked about having data champions in different teams. But how do you think that the company as a whole, like how should a startup be structured so that they can derive maximum value from whatever data initiatives that they are implementing?
Okay, I think the first thing when you're building a startup, it's about value you're bringing to other people, right? There is a problem you want to solve. How do you solve that problem, right? You want to understand who are you solving the problem for. There are tools you'll be building for different stakeholders within different organizations when it comes to data, right? For example, he's a data engineer just like I remember back when I was at 2 Sigma Investment, the type of tools I was building had nothing to do with the investment analyst. It had to do with, powering terabyte scale information processing, right? That person who will be using that tool had nothing to do with visualization, right? So first thing is as a startup, who are we solving this problem for, right? You want to understand what is your go-to market, right? Like go-to-market basically means how do you get that solution to the market, to the right people, to the right audience? Who is your buyer? Who is your user persona? Like you have all of this cleared out, right? Or that documented. And then you can now define your entire data strategy, how you collect that data along the line that enables you as an organization to deliver that value. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have that in place, it's just a fancy tool you've developed, right? And you will sit within your laptop or somewhere on cloud, and that's it. Nobody is going to buy it. So the first fundamental question you want to ask is, am I solving this problem for a single person? Or am I solving this for an entire organization? How do I monetize this entire solution of value for XY type of businesses, right? Even the market vertical, it could be just for financial services in, let's say, mid-market segment or for the enterprise. So these are some key questions. As a startup, you want to answer them before you even start planning what is my marketing budget going to look like. Do I even need to do marketing now, or do I go for the first 10 customers that will kind of like try out that product and tell me if I'm doing something right or wrong? You even start selling that to people within your network, right? So there is a lot that goes into it before you kind of like really define, that you're a business. I think for me, the way I define startup, it's more of like you're running an experiment, right? You could kind of like use the synonyms of saying you jump out of an airplane, they give you materials to build your parachutes. Like you don't know where to start from. You need to try several different things to find out what sticks and what doesn't, and then you go from there. So data within startup, it's a very, very complex process because you pretty much don't know what will work. You might have a ton of ideas in mind, like, hey, this is going to be amazing. Then guess what? You don't have a single user trying out the product. So the best way to go about it, first, you spend a lot of time doing your market research, understanding the problem. Do you have domain expertise in solving that problem? I think the first thing we did at Foyans was basically we experienced the problem ourselves, right? We've seen how within the different organizations we worked at, infrastructure was a massive problem, right? For him as a data engineer, he wants to spend the time building complex pipeline, but how do you deliver that value to other stakeholders? He needs an infrastructure to power that. And that infrastructure needs to be reliable, high performance. It means if today they tell him like, hey, we're moving from, say, a few gigabyte of data to about 100 terabyte, he should be able to do that, right? So he needs to understand that problem in a more deeper context before he starts building the solution.
Thank you so much. I mean, I like how you broke down the answer, like you started from the bottom and then, thank you so much. The final question that I have is for Daniel. You built solutions in different companies and you're at Paystack, yeah, everybody's dream company, things like that. So tell us, how do you know when a data initiative is successful? Like, what does success mean for you? How do you measure it? How do you, after you've built a solution and you've deployed it, what do you see that makes you to feel like, oh yeah?
So I can still go back to Kobo days when I built one fantastic Google Sheet. Right, it was a Google Sheet, right? It was a wonderful tool for the sales team, right? That tool changed from what was originally people dumping data and calculating it on a monthly basis to them seeing their conversion rate on a daily basis, right? That's a solution, right? And from that solution, what the joy I got that the marketing manager doesn't need to dump data every day to see what is happening. They have the answer, right? On a daily basis, on a weekly basis, looking at that, right? And again, also in Paystack, does the same thing, right? You are happy, you are seeing that people are using your tool and it's answering operation problems. I want to see pending payments. I don't need to start writing SQL codes. I just go to your dashboard, I'm seeing pending payments, right? Then you as a data analyst, you can do like monthly checkups just to look at people that are using your analytical tool and seeing which questions or which dashboard people, the frequency, like each tool has their frequency usage, right? Like for Tableau, Power BI, Metabase, people that are using it. So with that, you can do a sense check of, oh, this is what people are looking out for, this is what people are looking for. And again, one thing we did in Paystack, we have a request bot, right? We have people ask their questions, and then we answer these questions. And once you see that a question comes often, right, or you're not automated. And Pascal is good in automating, he likes automating. Just asking the question, tomorrow he automates it. And yeah, people not coming back to you and using a particular solution, that what shows you that at least you have solved something.
Thank you so much. I think for me, I've learned like so much from the sessions, but I think the key thing that keeps resonating with me is for every data initiative that you're trying to build, it needs to be tied to a problem. And especially when you're asking questions like, who is going to drive it? For example, when you talked about in the logistics business, if you have a head of, maybe call him a transport manager, and you find a problem that he has, that, I remember when I was in sales, they used to say something like, look for what keeps your customer awake at night. So you know that this transport manager has a problem that keeps him awake at night, and you can build a data initiative that will solve that problem. If you build that thing, it's not you that will drive it. That transport manager will carry it on his head, and he will drive it, he will take it to whoever needs to approve it, he will take it to the CEO because you are solving his problem. Now you can imagine if you now find a problem that the CEO has, and you use data to solve it, and then you are able to show it to him and make him see how this initiative solves this problem. Why won't he push it? He will push it. So it's just really about finding a real problem and building something that solves that problem. And then you're going to find that you will not have to struggle with implementation and adoption. So after all of this, I would take 2 questions from the audience. So if you have any question for any of our panelists, anybody have a question for our panelists?
Yeah, so my name is Shamsuddin. I'm more like an analytics engineer, not by choice. But so my question is to Pascal. So if, say you are starting out with a company, you are more like the data guy. So what are the things to put in place to have a robust data team, such that even when you leave, that they can carry on that tradition?
Okay, so still going back to the recurring theme of solving a business problem. Once you have identified the business problem, you now ask yourself, where can I get data that answers questions or that arms people who want to make a decision around solving that problem is? Do we have that data? Because people presume we always have the data. Sometimes you have tons of data, but you have nothing, right? So see the problem, check out whether you have the resources to tackle it in terms of the data that you have. If you determine that you have this, then depending on the skill level, I think it's Daniel that made mention of that, depending on the skill level of the team that you have, you build a solution that everybody can use and can easily reach. So people will say data democratization. I can't even pronounce it very well now. So it's about building the problem, building the solution, making sure people can reach it, and don't worry about whether they can continue it after you. Build it such that they can continue it after you, but organizations are such that depending on their priority at particular points in time, they might be able to continue with it, but I assure you, let that not be your chief concern. Let it be solving the problem that you see.
Does any other person have a...
Hi, good evening. My name is Kachi. So I want to ask Mr. Daniel, is there a roadmap that you can maybe mention for newbies like myself to follow through? You know, because most of the time, like myself, right? I've started already with Excel and now in Power BI, but then there are so many distractions. It's like we are jumping into a world that everyone is talking, and so because everyone is talking at the same time, we get lost easily. You know, so if you could recommend like a roadmap so that people like myself would not get lost.
Okay, roadmap. What I would say about roadmaps is taking it one step at a time, right? You don't jump into